there are no Hindu temples in my area except for a Hare Krishna temple. Will attending this temple benefit me in the same way? I don't want to get confused between your teachings and their teachings. First of all, the bottom line is one should always attend places of worship that exist where you live. You may move to a new city, for example, and you're used to attending a specific lineage, a specific sampradaya, a specific tradition. You move to a new city, maybe the new city doesn't have that type of temple. Doesn't matter. You should always go. So the short answer is absolutely attend. Absolutely go, because all of the different teachings are just different ways of taking us to the same place. And so the route might be slightly different. The flavors might be slightly different. But ultimately the goal of connecting you to God is the same. The goal of nourishing and nurturing your spiritual path is the same. So yeah, you go off to college and maybe the food doesn't taste exactly the same way that mom made it. But should you not eat? No, of course, you have to eat. You have to nourish yourself. You have to nurture yourself. And just because the food may be different than mom used to make it, spices are different, everything is different, nonetheless, not eating clearly is not going to be the right situation. So we understand that physically. No one would say, oh yeah, avoid food in the cafeteria, avoid food in the restaurants, avoid all food until you get home and you can eat mom's cooking. We know that that's not good for your body. Nobody would say, oh yeah, go the full, 3 months of the semester or 6 months of the semester without eating. Obviously, you have to eat. You have to feed the body. In the same way, we have to nourish and nurture our spiritual practices. And just because we may be used to one path, one way, one teaching, one lineage, one sampradaya, if we go somewhere where the teachings are slightly different, the way is slightly different, maybe they chant a slightly different arti. Maybe something's done in a different way. The tune is different. That's different. This is different. Doesn't really matter. What matters most is the nourishment and nurturing of your spiritual path. And remember that our spiritual path is taking us to a connection with God who's infinite. And so, in the example given in the question with the Hare Krishna lineage, so maybe you grew up in a city that you went to a Lord Shiva temple, and now you've moved somewhere and what there is the Hare Krishna temple where they emphasize the manifestation of the divine through Lord Krishna instead of through Lord Shiva. Don't worry about it. Because remember that God is infinite. And in that infinity, whether we are connecting with God through the form of Lord Krishna, whether we're connecting with God through the form of Lord Shiva, through the form of Lord Ram, through the form of the Mother Goddess, even through another religion entirely, It's all connecting with God. And so wherever you are, you can always connect with God inside. So yes, there's something, just like there's something always special about eating mom's cooking. Doesn't matter where you go, mom's cooking will always be mom's cooking. In the same way, there's something that's always very, very deep and very powerful about the teaching, the way, the lineage, the tradition that you're used to. But if your choice is, don't go to temple at all, or go to a temple that's a different form of the divine, still go to temple. Because that same infinite God that you've grown up worshiping as Lord Shiva, and now there's a Hare Krishna mandir, well, that's okay. Because it's the same divinity. Lord Krishna is an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, who's the sustainer, right? When we talk about the trinity of the divine, Brahma's the creator, Vishnu's the sustainer, and Shiva's the destroyer, the dissolver. Well, it's not linear, it's a cycle. And so Brahma creates, Vishnu and the incarnations of Vishnu sustain, which is why when God takes form on earth to restore the Dharma, it's the incarnations of Vishnu who come onto earth in form to restore Dharma. What are we doing? We're sustaining. We're sustaining a dharmic life. We're sustaining light over darkness, truth over falsehood, dharma over adharma, righteousness over unrighteousness. And then Shiva is the one who removes. Well, what does he remove? He removes that which is old, that which is dark, that which is stale, that which is keeping us stuck. In order for what? Not so that we shall suffer, not in a death is the end and there's nothing else way, but he's the remover so that in the cycle, Brahma can create, so that there's room for the creation of Brahma. So the questioner had asked specifically about my teachings and their teachings, and I've purposely deflected it off of myself. I'll come back to it in a moment, but I've done that on purpose because it's easier to understand when you think of very specific lineages. So I have specifically chosen an example, a hypothetical situation of being raised in a tradition that worships Lord Shiva and moving into a city that only has a Hare Krishna mandir. So absolutely go. You're worshipping the same divine, just a different aspect. Instead of the aspect that sustains, you're worshipping the aspect that destroys in order to make room for creation such that there may be sustenance. And even though in some lineages there's a specific and ardent emphasis on that particular form of the divine, even to the extent of saying that one is more important than or higher than the other forms, still don't worry about it. Because here's the thing. If you're a mother or you're a father and you have 4 or 5 different children, and one child calls you dad, and another child calls you papa, and another child calls you pitaji, and another child calls you pa, and another child can't say anything because they're too young, and so they say ba 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 ba. You're going to love them all the same. And even if one of the children says to the other, no, you're wrong, he's not papa, he's dad, you're still going to love them all the same. And you're going to love, instead of criticizing the one who says that, you're actually going to love the sweetness of it, the devotion of it, of a child who is so devoted to the name dad that he's going to make your other children stop saying pa and start to say dad, because there's something very, very beautiful about that devotion. And so if one father can love all of his children regardless of what name they call him, regardless of whether they even emphasize that their name is the right one or their name is better, if one dad can do that, well, surely God can do that. And so don't worry whether the mandir is saying it has to be Krishna, or the mandir is saying it has to be Shiva, or the mandir is saying it has to be Lord Ram, or the mandir is saying it's only Durga Ma. Don't worry. It's all the same divinity. All of the infinite aspects of that divine. And then specifically in terms of the question of a distinction between my teachings and those, I don't feel that I have any specific teaching on that. I certainly try very hard not to. I share frequently personal experiences because that's what I have. And I hope that through my experience it can touch and help others. And so, yes, through my experiences, I have had personal experiences of the divine in the form of Mother Ganga, in the form of Hanuman, in the form of Lord Krishna. And I pray to be given experiences of the divine in all of the other forms as well. But I definitely don't have a teaching of it should be this way or that way. The core of, if I had to say, okay, here's what I'm trying to teach, is really get all of that sense in your mind of it has to be this way or that way. Get that out of the way so that real grace can flow through. Grace came to me in the form of Mother Ganga when I wasn't expecting it. When I was born and raised in the Jewish tradition, I had no idea that this was how God could come. And so my experience, and therefore the teaching that I hope to channel and bring, is a teaching of openness, of surrender, of allowing, of courage, so that grace can come into and through you. And yeah, sometimes it comes in the form of Lord Krishna, and sometimes in the form of the Mother Goddess, and sometimes in the form of Hanuman, for others in the form of Lord Shiva, For others in the form of a nameless, formless sound of Om. But what matters most is that you connect to that grace, because that's what's going to change you. And once I had that experience, I can now walk into any place of worship and feel the divine. I can walk back into Jewish synagogues and feel the divine. Walk into any of the mandirs and feel the divine. So whatever form, whatever way touches and grabs your heart and fills you with love, that's the form that's right for you. And so go to temple. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to buy and subscribe to and implement every single thing that every priest in every temple ever has said. Going to temple and loving God doesn't mean we leave our common sense at the door. It doesn't mean because I heard it in temple, it's definitely right for me. Priests are human also, with all of the same human tendencies that other humans have. And so simply going to temple and connecting with the divine, that should be your main focus. If what the priest is saying or teaching touches you and helps you on your journey, fantastic. If what the priest is saying or teaching goes against what feels right to you, don't worry about it. God is there. You don't need the priest as the intermediary between you and the divine. Go to the temple. Sit in the presence of the divine. Connect to the divine. And what you'll find is, in whatever way you've connected to God, through whosever teachings, through whatever sampradaya or lineage, you'll be able to experience that in any temple. Because God is there.